Is Mr. Felix Dodds, a noted futurist, leader and author on sustainable development, democracy and justice. He is the Executive Director of the Stakeholder Forum for a Sustainable Future, an international multi-stakeholder organisation working on sustainable development that supports the increased involvement of all stakeholders in international and national governance processes. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to share my views today. And I think I may be the only person in the room who has been to all CSD meetings since 1993. I'm not sure if I'm committed or whether I should be committed. But it's been a long road, and I want to share with you some of my thoughts based on that. I'm going to address the three questions as a whole that we've been asked to look at. And what I wanted to do was to start by I think we need to be honest about where we are. The UN CSD has declined in importance in governments and stakeholder priorities compared to the period 1993 to 2001. The failure of the energy cycle in 2007 has had deep repercussions, but some of the problems were there before and were raised by stakeholders and governments. In the area of national preparations for CSD meetings, prior to the CSD decision of 2003, there were a reasonably large number of countries working with their stakeholders through multi-stakeholder national roundtables, inputting substance to government reports and directly to the UN CSD. I think now there are very few who do that. Most countries have reverted to the pre-Rio forms of consultation, that of inviting stakeholders to a meeting or two prior to the CSD meeting and informing them of the government's position, perhaps seeking to organise a joint side event or two. Some now don't even do this. I don't really call that consultation based on the Rio model. To give an example, and I'm going to use my own country for that, the UK. Prior to 2003, we used to have 3 or 4 fully interactive multi-stakeholder meetings between June and October, culminating in a conference which the UN task manager for the relevant chapter of Agenda 21, which would be WHO for health or FAO for agriculture, and a deputy minister would come to discuss the outcomes from the UK multi-stakeholder process. This enabled UK government and the Secretary-General's report to reflect UK stakeholder inputs. But that was a time when national reports were required to be submitted by the end of October. Now the timeline is the middle of summer, which has contributed to the implosion of national processes involving stakeholders. One of the innovations of the first 5 years of the CSD was the national report reviews. This is where governments would offer their national reports to peer group review at the CSD. These would happen over a 2-day period. It was interactive, learning, and involved stakeholders making comments about their own government and other governments' process to create their national reports and what was in it. The 1990s was also a period of local Agenda 21. There were over 6,000 created as a mechanism to take forward Agenda 21 at the local level. They helped to raise awareness of local sustainability issues and link to a global agenda around the CSD. The process is no longer functional in the way it was in the 1990s. For better or worse, the link to the UN CSD has been lost. In Johannesburg, a new network was created, and that was the first global network for regional government, subnational level government. It was known as the NRG for SD, and has been trying to engage in building awareness and speeding up implementation at the regional government level. As yet, no role in the CSD, as it is not one of the major groups. Parliamentarians were active presence in Rio in 1992, but somehow have been lost through the last 18 years as a force to support implementation. Parliaments play a critical role in helping governments implement agendas agreed at the CSD. But over the years, that link has been dropped. The last debate in the UK Parliament on the CSD was held in 1997. So there are problems in raising awareness, speeding up implementation, promoting best practice, and sharing knowledge and experience among policymakers at all levels. Perhaps we need to look at repackaging CSD decisions into advice notes for decision makers at different levels and all relevant stakeholders to help to re-engage. Finally, on question 1, I want to comment on best practice. Stakeholder Forum were one of the organisations which championed the Type 2 partnerships in 2001 and 2002, and we've been very disappointed with where we've ended up. In Joburg, Stakeholder Forum's implementation conference launched 23 Type 2 partnerships in 4 areas: water, health, energy and food security. Some survived, but many didn't. One of the outcomes of the conference was an initiative by the Vice President of Ghana, who tried to get together the possible